A very good day to you all. Welcome to this, the latest in our Aspire series conversations. Today, my guest is someone I'm fascinated to speak to. Andrea Radrizzani, the owner of Acer Sports, the founder of 11 Sports, and of course, the owner of Leeds United Football Club. It's been quite a journey for you, Andrea. Why don't we just start by taking us back to the very beginning? How did you start your journey?
First of all, thank you for having me here in this series for Aspire. So Aspire is a really good name that remind me my origin, because I had always been ambitious to achieve. And when I started my career back in 2000, after university, I had a lot of dreams and ambition, and that led me to actually leave my country in 2002. I moved to China, in Shanghai, with the idea that sports media, sports business generally would grow enormously in the Far East, particularly in Asia and in China and Japan. So I spent 2 years in China, in Shanghai, and then I moved to Tokyo. And in that period, I started to become one of the leading players in distribution of digital rights in sport, in football.
So what made you, at that point, see it? Because it took incredible foresight. At the start of this century, I don't think anybody realised quite the value of sports rights. So to see it before everybody else, to go to the Far East, that took incredible bravery, I suppose.
Yeah, I was very ambitious, as I said, and it happened that I was dealing with some partners in Japan and China, so I went there for a trip, and then I was fascinated by the potential growth. And I remember I have this image of coming back at 2-3 a.m. after an evening out and seeing people building skyscraper, and I felt, wow, this is the place I want to be, because this is something happening, and I'm young, I need to move here. So, and after 6 months I did, and then, as I said, I built my career originally in the distribution of digital media rights around sports, football particularly. So I was distributing, selling rights of Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, so major football leagues on the digital space. Yeah. At the moment, at that time we call it new media, and now I'm not new anymore. But I remember we were selling clips and streaming rights on different platforms, and telecom particularly. Then the big change happened in 2006-07 from Singapore, where I started to be involved in the distribution of broadcasting rights of Serie A, Italian Football League, and with a big partnership with Dentsu, and then we set up with my partner MP Silva, sports rights agency out of Singapore. And I was the chief executive and partner, a 50% owner. And from that time, 2006-07 to 2014, I was the leader of this agency as a chief executive officer. And we built a fantastic business, almost $900 million revenue, partnership with over 70 rights holders, including...
Can you remember, what was the very first deal you did, and how much was that one worth?
Yeah, besides Serie A, my first project was baseball qualifying for Olympic Games, and it was $1.1 million, and it was extremely difficult to sell to a Korean free-to-air broadcaster, and until like 2-3 days before the kickoff of the event, I was really so stressed, and over the time I learned to manage this moment of high stress and high excitement as well, low. So I really had the opportunity with my job to find a balance, and I don't get too excited when things go well or when I make deals, and I don't get too stressed when they don't go very well or they go bad. And this actually became very important in the second phase of my life when I bought Leeds United, because as you know, a football club live of these peaks and hills and down and lows. So it was an extremely good experience.
I'll come to Leeds because as a football fan, I'm fascinated to hear what it must be like to be an owner. But just to go back to that first deal, $1 million for a baseball Olympic qualifier. I mean, in today's money, it doesn't seem like a huge amount. Yeah. In business terms. Had you not been able to sell those rights, what would have been the outcome for you?
Yeah, at that time, obviously, I was not financially strong as I am now, and it was it was my first deal, so it appeared to be a lot of money in that moment. Then over the times, everything changed. The volume of the business and the company grew to hundreds of millions, so obviously the size and the level of stress change. But I always had the culture and the attitude to fight for every deal. Like it's every deal is big, every deal is important, so it doesn't really matter the size. I treat it in the same way.
How much did you pay for your first Serie A rights, and how much are they worth now? Just to give us an idea of the growth of sports television rights.
I think, I remember the first deal on Serie A I sold was in Japan, was 5 teams, 5 clubs only, because at the time the clubs could sell the rights individually. And the rights was 5 million, that with a bonus to 8 million if we would have 3 Japanese players in the 5 teams.
Okay.
To NTT company and IPTV. This was a sale. Then I think another big deal, I think one of the first was All Asia joint venture with Dentsu for around 25 million per year, per season.
So it's growing.
So, yeah, it's growing. And then I think the peak of my career in the rights business was when I was probably the best international client for Premier League with an investment of around $500 million per year.
Wow.
$500 million, sorry, I think for, I don't remember per year, per cycle, but yeah, per cycle, but it was one of the best clients. That time we had like 58 territories with Premier League, including Middle East, Indonesia, Vietnam, some market in Europe like Holland. So we were one of the best partners, probably the best partner at that time of the Premier League.
And at that point, was there anybody competing with you, or did you see something that nobody else had?
Yeah, a lot of players competing with us, agencies and broadcasters, but obviously our strength was to be very close to the territory, to understand the market and take risk, and sometimes in my case disrupt the distribution. So I remember, especially with Premier League, I was the first in some market like in Southeast Asia to disrupt the distribution, not in an exclusive way, but creating different packages for different broadcasters in their own budget. Also, a very big achievement was being the first agency acquiring Roland Garros in 2012. For the first time, they sold to an agency and not to EBU, the European Broadcasting Union. So that was also another big
landmark.
Big objective.
I suppose a big landmark. Then, what made you found 11 Sports?
Well, 11 was a legacy with my previous activities at MP Silva. So when I left, I felt the responsibility to help the company in some markets where I started some rights acquisition. So I decided to start 11. Originally, I felt that also was a good moment to be an agnostic publisher distributing packaging and distributing content, because I've launched a few years earlier beIN Sports Asia. So maybe you're part of beIN as well, and I'm glad, but maybe you don't remember, but when beIN started in Asia, it was for a project that I initiated. I started buying rights and packaging the rights in a channel, and then I had an agreement with obviously Nasser and Youssef, part of beIN, to help them launching in Asia.
So you must be quite proud of the way that you've seen beIN grow in the last decade.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as a friend, as a partner initially and a friend, I'm happy of their success, as I'm sure they are of mine. So it's a great relationship, and even in the last period we haven't worked much together, but there is a strong friendship, and that's the most important.
So 11 Sports, and correct me if I'm wrong, it felt like the business plan was to find markets where the rights were undervalued. Is that fair? For 11 Sports, I wanted to focus on second-tier market where we could become the best or the second best offer of sports, and that's what we did. For example, we are now the leading player in Taiwan, where we have all the best baseball rights, and baseball for them is the most important content. In Poland, we have achieved similar position with 3.5 million customers, and then we sold the business. In Belgium, we have the domestic rights of Belgian League, plus all the international football, like La Liga, Serie A, Formula 1, NBA. So we have a very strong package, and we became the leading sports offer, sports content, football particularly. Portugal, the same with Formula 1, Premier League, Champions League. So basically, we repeat the success that beIN does in other markets like France or Middle East in second-tier market. And we have at the moment 4 or 5 markets where we are strong. And as you know, recently we have sold 11, actually more than sold, I would say we partner, because it's a real joint venture with the Zone. And the idea to
to merge 11 with the zone is to be part of something bigger and global. And I have the ambition to support the zone to become the leading sports destination in the world. So.
And how much of what you're doing was dependent on technology? How much did you need the technology to catch up with the ideas?
Technology is very important because technology enables us to reach differently the audiences and create different packages, and this is intermediated by a cable operator that in the past used to have the much leverage with publisher. So I think technology is giving many opportunity, and in the future we will be able to like we use, I dream that one day, as the way we use Spotify will be also in sports. You can have your playlist and you can pay by your budget for what you want to watch. And I think at the moment sports is still, particularly football, is still exclusive for an elite of people that can pay a very high monthly fee, and that's why we give opportunity to piracy to be successful, and this money is basically not part of the system, going back to the system and becoming part of the actually illegal environment. And I really dream that one day we could offer sports in much different ways, having maybe different way to package it, also accessible for any pocket, and a more democratic distribution. And the technology for that is actually a very important tool.
So how long, looking into the future, do you think we will sit around our big screen television and watch football like that among friends and family? Will that always be our number one way of viewing football, or do you think, in other sports, or will there come a point when we're actually, everything's on your phone now, everything's on your iPad or whatever? At which point, will that ever take over?
No, look, I think we are living in a transition phase now from traditional TV to digital. Digital is already very popular, but in this moment it's basically a very close replication of what is on traditional cable TV on the digital platform. Going forward, I think the interactivity will make the service on digital platform much more interesting and more appealing. So the opportunity to interact with the content, to have information, to link to gaming activities or e-commerce activity directly from your screen will create much more engagement and community around the event itself, the live event and the live football. The next level will be, I think, we're still early stage, but the technology is going in that direction, will be the immersive experience. So when we will be able, from our sofa, to feel close and to feel ourselves part of the event. So be close to the locker room or the bench or the football pitch will be an amazing experience. I think the technology is ready, but obviously the use of the VR experience need to become easier and better and cheaper to make this successful. I think it will be only a question of time.
This is an interesting one to put to you, because obviously you own a television business, you've set up television companies, and you also own a football club. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer to watch television in the comfort of your own home, or do you prefer the atmosphere of being in a stadium? Both.
When I'm actually, as a Leeds owner, I prefer to be in the stadium, because at home alone I'm too stressed. I actually enjoy. I'm less stressed. I'm enjoy more in the stadium. As a football fan, sometimes I enjoy to be on sofa and watch and see the details and the clear picture. And I mean, beside big events like the World Cup, like these days, I'm obviously enjoying very much being in the stadium because it's a different experience. I think the World Cup is unique. It's a different context where people get really together and there is a much more friendly environment. People is not angry. At the stadium, you can see the difference. When you go in a Premier League or Serie A game, or people at the stadium, it's like taking their stress of the week and their job in the pitch, in the stadium, and you feel that tension and even bad words, and it's not really a family-friendly environment being in a stadium in any league in Europe. When I come to the World Cup, it's actually completely the opposite. Everybody is there to enjoy. Even people, they are fans, they are losing the game, they are friendly to the other. Kids are happy. So it's a completely different experience, and it's amazing, I think.
Yeah, I suppose that's a very fair point. I noticed the difference at this past World Cup versus going to Premier League games every weekend. And do you know what? I love the atmosphere inside the Premier League. But you're right, it's not necessarily what we would call family friendly. It's edgy, and and it can be great because it makes the atmosphere, the tension on the pitch perhaps enhanced. But would you want to take small children?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly the case. I would see the World Cup or the Euro big events like that more similar to a Disney experience, while Premier League is a thriller and is always on the edge, as you said.
Tell me about owning Leeds United then. Now we're talking Premier League. So what made you buy that club? And did you know when you bought Leeds what you were getting into? Did you realise how big a football club Leeds United were?
I could not imagine that it's so big as it is. We have fans everywhere. Everywhere I go, every part of the world I've been in the last years, people talk about Leeds, recognize me, or especially after also our documentary on Amazon, everybody followed the club. And it's been a great journey, a great ride, 6 years already. And I could never imagine at the beginning it could be so big.
I mean, and you came at a time, with all respect, when I think Leeds were, if you have peaks and troughs in football, I mean, you bought them a real low point, didn't you?
Yeah. We were when I got the club, we were a mid-table championship club, tending more on the end of the table rather than the playoff, and so it was a big turnaround, an important project for me, but also very challenging. We had to change a lot on the pitch, particularly and off of the pitch. To make it work, and we achieved that at the end of the third season under fantastic leadership of Marcelo Bielsa on the pitch, and then now we are in our third season of the Premier League. I think the club now is more projected to the future, and we are in I think in a new cycle with Jesse Marsch, with a lot of good young players. We had 3 of them here doing the World Cup, 2 in the American team. Tyler did fantastic, and we had Rasmus Christensen in Denmark. But we have other players that really are promising fantastic to go and to bring to our club good talent.
So let me ask you, when you bought Leeds, how much of that was a business decision? You could see the value increasing, and at which point did you realise it was more than just a business decision? Very
simple. I mean, it's been, for me, always a project, and because I decided in my life to do this passion as a job, so for me it is business. But the moment we reached the promotion with Marcelo Bielsa, that night I forgot completely that this is business, and I never had such a joy to see how many people I could make happy. Thousands of people everywhere in Leeds and outside of Leeds happy for our coming back to the Premier League.
Because that football club is part of so many people's daily life.
Yes. So achieving the Premier League after 17 years for a club that prestigious and glorious as Leeds United not only made me proud, but made me proud the fact that I could feel the happiness of these people, and that is beyond any kind of business. I think it's the best joy I had in my life.
How many stadiums have you been to in the world?
Beside when my child was born, of course.
How many stadiums have you been to in the world that are as loud as Elland Road?
Few.
Not many?
Few. I remember very clearly one time I was at Manchester PSG, obviously with my Qatari friends, in Champions League on Tuesday, and the next day I was at Leeds Swansea at Elland Road in Championship, and I was thinking, if you could come in the stadium blind, you would think the Champions League would be the second game when we play Leeds Swansea, because the level of enthusiasm and the energy, the vibe they bring our fans is really unique.
So you said that the turning point really was bringing in Marcelo Bielsa. How difficult was it to persuade him to become part of that project?
It wasn't easy. I remember flying to Buenos Aires, spending probably 10, 12 hours in the room with him. He's a very meticulous man. He's great in his values, he's great in his knowledge, but he's like, I remember investing time and commitment to him it was like when you want to conquer a beautiful woman to be your lady. So it's very similar. At the end, you need to do your best because for him, it's not just taking the contract and taking the money, but it's to get basically a kind of full in support, all in commitment. Because it's very difficult to work with him. So if you speak, that's why I think the record to stay in a club was with Leeds United, 3 years and a half, and nowhere else. Because when you decide to work with him, you need to let him basically lead.
He wants to be hands-on.
Yeah, and he's hands-on, but sometimes the decision and the way he works can be a bit difficult to accept for a football club. Because I believe the club is above everything, above everyone, including myself. And sometimes, in some cases, his way to manage could go in the opposite way of this belief. And so it's important that you correct him, but at the same time you let him free to go and support him until when you see that he works. And then the difficulty is to understand when is the time to make the switch. And it was very hard for me because both of us, we knew the summer before the breakup that could be maybe the right time to change, but it was difficult to change after a 9 position in the first year of the Premier League. Anyway, it was a great experience, a great journey, and I really wish him the best.
Yeah, I mean, look, you said meeting Marcelo was a bit like about finding a beautiful woman to be your wife. In life, we hope if that happens, that's forever. In football management, if you're the owner and you're head coach, it's very rarely forever. Not really.
Yeah, we have only a few cases, Arsene Wenger or Sir Alex at Man United. But I think to do that, you need to invent yourself as a coach and then change also as a manager and understand which are the players need to change every time and change the group motivation every time.
It must be hard for you, though, to actually say to him, I think it's time.
It was very hard. It was very hard because I knew what he represented for the fans, but I didn't see any other way to save the club, keep the club in Premier League. If not, I would never done.
Jesse Marsch is very different, and he must have known it's always difficult to come in following someone so popular, but he seems to have embraced that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very grateful to Jesse because the plan was to call him for the following year. When he had to take the decision to come and take join in the moment after Marcelo was extremely difficult. So he was really brave, and not only brave, he was very mature and a great leader to keep the group together and fight until the very last minute to keep in Premier League the club.
So the club now on the field is looking pretty strong. You've sold some of the club to the 49ers now. Where are we at in terms of that process? And is it easy? Is it difficult to buy and sell a Premier League club? What thought processes do you have to go through to make a decision, one, to do it, and then actually how much is involved in making a sale? Well,
this is a subject that they bring a lot of speculation. People like to talk about this. In reality, everything is really transparent. The 49ers have been supportive and joined my project since the beginning. They've been absolutely a fantastic partner and great friends. We establish our relationship more and more, and we want to work together within Leeds, but also eventually in other projects. So we are really close. And we have an agreement that is, in 2024, they could acquire the majority. And so this is very clear and have been communicated already many times. For now, everything is going well. We are happy together, and the focus is on the pitch. Then we will see by 2024.
Yeah. For that to happen, do you have to still be a Premier League club?
Yes, but I mean, to be honest, it's not the case because there is nothing to discuss. We are happy working together, and if one day they will take the majority, I think it will be important for me for one reason particularly, because they could bring more investment, more funds, more resources, hopefully to give this club a brighter future. And that's the only reason why I would like them to take over one day. And but with them, everything is clear. We are friends, and we're gonna work together in Leeds and eventually even outside of Leeds. So there is not really issue. Like the media like to speculate about this, but to be honest, the relation is super transparent.
It would be, I imagine, difficult though for you to let go when you've had such a run.
Yes, but also I want to do the best for the club, and then I will. Also, I'm someone that need always new challenge, new excitement. So I will look for something else to build again. I love to build. So
what's next?
I don't know. First, let's continue this project, and when will be the right moment, we will look at that.
Andrea, it's been absolutely fascinating speaking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, and we will see you again very soon for the next of our Aspire Speaker series. Bye bye for now.